Hello, my loves. I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being here. We're talking about the multi-dimensional aspect of narcissism at the moment and how to set yourself free, how to truly heal and set yourself free. People that work with me, if I do trauma release, for example, they'll come in for a few sessions, maybe a 6-week intensive. That's it. Big shifts in their life. My work is integrated, conscious, subconscious, energetic field, and designed not to make you dependent on needing more and more healing, because that's another thing that we get stuck in. It's like the never-ending healing, right? So I've developed a modality that will set you free. It's designed to set you free. Now, this means we have to work, and my focus is very much on getting you free, not ruminating and trying to figure out and understand something that, I mean, actually is quite simple to understand. We don't need to make it so complex. Yes, there are different versions of narcissists and we can make it as complex as we like, but it's an entity working through someone. Someone asked me, what does the consciousness mean? When you make the deal with the devil, when you decide to detract from your soul, you're not really there. So what it means is they're not in connection with source, with God, with the divine in the way we are. They've kind of departed. Their soul has detached. They've made a choice, right? And the only way that could ever change is if they have an awakening. But they're not going to have an awakening through you. That's why I keep saying, like, you can't wake them up. That's not going to happen. You can't love this out of them. That's what I made the mistake of for years. That's not the way we do it on the planet. While they're detached from their soul in the way that they are, which is why they're devoid of empathy, their energy field is very weak. They've got a broken energy field, right? And that means they can be taken over by a consciousness. Everything on the planet is consciousness. Love is a consciousness. Everything is about consciousness and raising our consciousness, raising our awareness, raising it's an awareness, and it's like it's an entity. It's like an entity of ideas, right? So each consciousness, if you could see energy and like how this actually works, is like a kind of I don't know how I describe this. It's like, because I feel it but it's like a chain of things, right? And so every thought that's ever been thought or is known by that, if you think of it as a physical thing, it's not physical, it's energetic, but like everything that is known by it supports the whole. This is why they all act in the same way. No narcissist has gone to narcissist school. Consciousness works through them. So this consciousness is now taken over and is acting through them. Sometimes they don't even know what they've done. Actually, I believe that. You know, they lie about most things, but I believe that because this thing is working through them. It's a level of consciousness. Now, as that consciousness builds on the planet, it just starts syncing up. So as it's working through them, they're under the influence of something, right? Now, we can be under the influence of love. Someone said, if we've been poisoned in these toxic cycles and stuff, do we, are we now the narcissist? I think a lot of people that have been abused ask themselves if they're the narcissist, mainly because of reactive abuse. Because if you're an empath as well, you're going to absorb their emotions and you may respond. We've all done it, where you've done something so out of character, because again, they're trying to push you to detach from your own soul and become like them, to go so far that you're kind of empty. Maybe like they're trying to push you there, but you're very unlikely. I mean, it's very unlikely for you to go there. Narcissism probably is a trauma response, right? But they still made a choice at that point. Everybody here on this channel probably has gone through trauma. Did you become a narcissist? Do you hate people? Do you go out intentionally trying to hurt them? No, you're probably sitting at home trying to heal and maybe self-imploding, right? We don't go out and try and destroy. So they made a choice, like we've made a choice. So we have to live in a free will universe respecting people's choices, right? And understand that we are the battery source of the narcissist. So here's a secret they don't want you to know. And this is the reason, partly, why they put you in traps. You don't actually need them. They need you. They cannot coexist with with like a higher vibration of love on the planet, with a higher consciousness, right? Which is what we're here to do. And they're a parasitic entity. They feed off your life force. They need your pain. They need your suffering. That is what fuels this consciousness. They need your fear. Without it, their battery supply goes down and they're forced into an awakening. They need you more than you need them. That's very hard for you to believe. And it is the absolute reason why they put you in a trap. If they don't trap you physically, right? Emotionally, spiritually, financially, and through isolation of no support system, you're not going to stay there and they are going to lose their battery supply. That's why you're in the trap. But you're in the trap in the illusion that you need them. Again, their projection that you're absorbing. You think you need them as your supply of love, for example. A narcissist can't love you, and that is the hardest thing to accept. It took me so long. I had to go through so much abuse to actually kind of be willing to accept the truth, which I knew I was being shown it anyway. You know, expecting a narcissist to be capable of actual real love, compassion, empathy is like asking a penguin to become a car. It doesn't exist. They can't do it. They can fake it, they can mimic it, which is again why they can, in certain circumstances with certain people, seem like a really lovely person, especially if they're recruiting that person, you know, to be part of a smear campaign against you later, which they're always lining up, or they want to get something from that person. So we make them our source of love, but they're not a source of love. They're actually a source of a hit that feels like love. Because again, like I keep talking about in some of the other videos, we've got this kind of Stockholm syndrome. So we are biologically wired to attach to our caregivers as children, especially when we're in a traumatized fight and flight survival state. It's chemical. So as soon as they get you in fight and flight, your nervous system's in survival, this chemical reaction makes you attach, and it feels like love. But it's not real love, but it's definitely not healthy love. And we're really asking, you know, a pig to fly. It doesn't work. So unfortunately, the hardest thing I had to understand, I mean, it's so painful. That truth was so painful. I kept being shown it over and over again, you know, from my channel. And like, I just didn't want to accept it. That is such a hard truth. But when you understand it from, it's not that they don't love you because of you. It's that they're not capable of that consciousness. Love is also an energy and a consciousness. It's got nothing to do with you, and it's the hardest thing to accept. But it's the only way to. I feel really. I'm not trying to hurt anyone by saying this, because even now, for me, it hurts my heart. I think that's the most painful one for me, is like, I'm not trying to hurt anyone on this channel. Please, you know, like, I used to tell myself with my dad when he discarded me, right, that maybe that was how he loved me, because maybe the discard stage was because he knew he couldn't be around me without abusing me. He just couldn't help himself, you know? And so I used to say, well, maybe the discard was love, because maybe he saw that he just couldn't help himself and it would be kinder to just throw me away. But that made it easier for me to accept it. But really, I feel like they're not really capable of it. So we've got to understand that, right? people say they're withholding love, but none of the love is actually real. It's an illusion. I'm not sure they're even withholding it. It's just a pig doesn't fly, a penguin's not a car. It doesn't exist in the same way. And again, if you understand it as an entity working through them, you understand that for human beings, all human beings are capable of love. We want more love on the planet, but we are dealing with something a little bit different. So they need you more than you need them. That's why you're in such a bad trap. They have to put you in a trap. You're their battery supply. But you can start self-sourcing, which means self-regulating your nervous system, be your own source of love. Most of us have been isolated, so you've had to find your own strength, and you've had to self-source. My own source of validation, my own source of financial security, no matter what's been taken from you. I'm going to do another one on loss, because most of us have to deal with the grief as well. You know, there's so many traumas in narcissistic abuse, but one of them is severe grief. Loss. And part of the loss is the illusion, loss of what I thought was the loving family or the loving partner that couldn't really love, right? It's not like Beauty and the Beast. I think in Beauty and the Beast she warms him up. We want to warm these people up, but that's not the thing that we're being called to do on the planet. We're being called to not fuel it, because we're the counterpart to it until we go on and create our real lives, which is just our true lives, our connected lives, our loving lives, do the purpose that we came to do on the planet, which is to be in our essence, to be in love, right, with life, with each other, to bring more unity consciousness on the planet, and to let them have their own awakening, see it for what it is, but not be depleted in our spiritual gifts, which someone said, that on my video yesterday, which is the absolute truth. They are depleting your spiritual gifts, because when they're interfering with your energy field, your connection to the divine is interfered with. It's not even, I don't feel like God's rewarding you when you become enmeshed. It's that you cannot have a clear channel when you're being interfered with. The enmeshments are getting in the way. You can't be playing on both sides. And even though it's not intentional, when you're attached to a narcissist, when you're enmeshed, you're fueling the other side. You're fueling the darkness, because it's your life force. It's your life force energy. So I keep, in the video yesterday, I'm saying your empathy, your life force energy is on the planet for good. You can do a lot more good, right, by supporting, helping, pouring love into people who can actually receive it and be inspired to do better things. But when you pour your love, your time on this earth, which is limited, right, your life force into the entity, you're actually fueling the wrong thing. You're fueling the wrong thing for you and for the collective. Now, it's not as harsh as that sounds, because they don't have the same emotional reaction they know that the relationship has got a time limit for a lot of the time, because it's unsustainable. They flip around people because they have to. Sources of supply and things, like, for a lot of the time. So they don't feel hurt in the same way when you walk away. They just feel like, I don't know I can't speak for how they feel actually, but I don't think it's an emotional thing the way that we feel, right? Because we've been through such abandonment wounds with narcissists that the thought of abandoning someone in their suffering, in their pain, is so terrible. I mean, I know it's brutal with narcissistic abuse. I was left with, in the worst states of my life, with no one. Like, literally, it was just extraordinary to me. Like, it was devastating. So, the thought of ever inflicting that on someone is so hard for us, but you have to understand you're not dealing with someone with empathy and emotional capacity in the same way. So to them, it's not so much. It's just they're going to look for the next thing they can suck on, until they have to be starved of other people's life force and have an awakening. It's good for them. It's good for me. It's good for you. It's good for the planet as a whole. So what we're doing is not, as I say, fighting them at their own game, becoming dark. We're seeing it for what it is and using our resources more wisely. There's no resource you cannot rebuild on this planet, including your health. I know that can sound strange, but I've healed a lot of people in my sessions, and I don't need a lot of them. There's nothing you can't rebuild. But what you won't get back is your time. You won't. You've got a limited amount of time in this lifetime. So even money, although it's so terrible if you get cheated, or I've had everything drained out of me by narcissists. And if your physical well-being goes down, your ability to generate gets depleted, right? So but you can replace all of it and more. And when you get your channel back, when you're connected more, your abundance goes on better. It's easier. When you heal trauma, your manifestation turns back on. So there's no resource, even your health, that can't be replenished. But the thing you won't get back in is your time, which is why, you know, I want people to heal faster, to see it for what it is, to wake up faster and actually do some really good things with your time. Not be feeding the energetic vampire that's going to just deplete it. Every time we go back in a cycle, right, there's a hit, there's an aftershock, and it takes a lot more time to heal. I thought, well, I'm so strong, I know so much, I can put up with it, I'll just take it. I was putting myself in illusions rather than doing what I should have done in the first place, which is I only really started talking on this channel a week ago. Look how many of you are here. Look how divinely guided that is, right? This is what I should have been doing all along, not fueling an entity that was only going to deplete me and deplete the planet. Think of how many lives will not be impacted, or how much love you can't give your children or the people you love, how much light you can't spread. And as I say, it's not that you have to go out and heal the world or be anything in particular other than who you are and your unique purpose, which sometimes is just your energy in your community is enough, right? But that's how we transmute darkness on the planet, is by coming from the light and being in our hearts and not being depleted. And when we're depleted, or maybe we're angry, sad, grieving, going through so much, we can't be the light we came to be just by being on this planet around anyone with in your true essence, in your authenticity and in love. Like, you change the room. You transmute energy just naturally. I'm going to teach you a lot about energetics and energies, but just trust me on this. I'm sorry about saying that they don't love you, because I think that's the hard truth. But I had to keep. I knew it was the truth. I'm a channel. I've got a connection that gives me the truth. But that was so hard for me. Is it really true? Is it really true? Can I change them? I can change anyone. I can bring the good out. And then God obviously has led me to a number of things to understand this on a much deeper level. But I mean, one of them is that I was not using my God-given gifts in the right way, not using what actually I was here to do. And that's not fair for other people, actually. It's not actually fair for the collective, because I was given certain things that I'm supposed to use, and so are you. Even if it's just your presence, as I say, in your heart. If you're a loving, and I'm sure if you're here you are, beautiful person, just the way you do things makes people's day. Your smile, just the way you can be so sweet, you know, it changes things. It actually transmutes energy. I'm going to teach you so much about energy and how you're actually naturally gifted at this. Like, I obviously had a good channel, and I did spend years cultivating that even more. I opened it even more. But the problem with me opening it even more, right, was I didn't know how to manage my energy. It's not just protect it, because that just puts us in defensive mode, right? It's actually manage it. So I knew what was coming in, what was coming out, and how not to be targeted for these things, and how to have a more robust field that can't get impermeated. So, as you know, actually I believe we want to go more into our empathy, more into our hearts, more into our channel, more into our intuition. That's our superpowers being explored, and I'm going to talk to you more about that. But that can only be done when we're safe with it, and it can't be done when our fields are being contaminated and infected. So I hope you like this video. Sovereign's opening this week. Lots of love, sending you a ton of love. The narcissist does not love you, and that is the hardest thing to hear. So if that's hard, just like be with what you can be with when I talk about stuff, and just piece by piece, day by day. It's not meant to, nothing here is meant to hurt you, it's meant to help. But like, you see what feels true in you. You see what feels true in your body. You come into your body and see what you, in your heart, and see what you really know to be true. All right, my darlings, I love you. I'll speak to you soon.